Stoney, you loved Sinners, and you helped me understand some of the things that's going on. Your first video talked about the difference between the blue of Smoke, right? And the
Yeah,
red, did I get that right? And the red of Stack?
yeah,
And how blue is more angelic. He ends up in heaven, which is attract blue. He is more of the angelic person who is trying to steer Sammy away from the devilish juke.
hmm
Whereas Stack is red, which is blood, vampires. He more goes into hell, right? So I didn't really even pick that up
yeah,
until you pointed that out.
yeah.
So talk a little bit more about that and some of the symbols that you're seeing in this that you think people aren't picking up.
Well, that was actually the first thing I noticed in the movie. Was the colors that of the brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So Stack had on the red hat, Smoke had on the blue hat, and it not only represented their fates in the movie, like where they ended up, it also represented their journey in the movie as well. Because if you pay attention to it, when they split up and went their separate ways, Stack with Sammy took him down to what essentially was the land of sinners. He was down there with. That's where he met Perlene, who was a married woman who also sung the blues, but despite her being married, she was still basically throwing it at Sammy, which is a
Mm-hmm.
sin. You know what I'm saying? That's when he met Delta Slim, who was an alcoholic, also a sin, who also sung the blues, devil's music. And that's the train station is basically where they got majority of their crowd that showed up to the juke joint from.
Okay.
That was when Stack pulled out the Irish beer. That was when he made that big announcement. That's where he ran into Mary again. And although Mary wasn't a bad person, she essentially was still his Achilles heel. She was still his weakness, basically. Because
Because of her
Mm-hmm.
naivete. She's not
yeah,
evil. She's
her
naive.
naiveness.
She's naive because she's not black.
Yeah, and that little 1/8 ain't enough for her to be
Right.
fully
Yeah.
locked in. Like she, and it's like when you watch
That
the
little one
movie,
eight.
you would think that Stack was being mean to Mary, but he wasn't. He was protecting her. He was like,
Right.
"Look, girl, you can't be in my face like this because
Mm-hmm.
do you not realize what year this is? Do you not realize what state we live in? I don't care how we feel about each other. I would rather suffer and be away from you than to run the risk of being with you." And
Yeah.
that
And
was
the dangers that come with that
and
for
the
him
dangers that
and
come with
her.
that. So yeah, so he didn't mind telling her to F off. He was like, she was like, go to hell. He was like, I'll make room for you. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny because that was some subtle foreshadowing when she told him to go to hell. And he said, I'll make room for you. Because essentially both of them did end up in hell. They both became vampires. And when you're a vampire, you're dead. You're not alive. Your soul is somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So that the colors represented their journey in the movie as well. Like I said, because Smoke with the blue hat, his journey was literally going to see Annie and trying to recruit her to cook the fish. So his journey was about nourishment. He was looking for someone who could cook the food. He also went down to the town and ran into Grace and Bo, where he ordered the food. He ordered the sign for the restaurant. His journey was about finding resources and nourishment for everybody who was going to be there. Running into Mary and getting those prayers and getting his mojo bag redone. That was Smoke's journey, versus Stack's journey was about the music, the alcohol, the temptation. Um,
Yeah. I think
and
temptation is a great word. And smoke is redemption and stack is temptation. It seems like that journey is that if you wanted to just make it thematically, because it seems he wanted to come back to Mississippi, start a juke joint. How can we be profitable and
yeah,
be successful businessmen?
yeah,
And how can I get my woman back?
hmm
Sammy, you go ahead and you should go be a preacher, singer, sing about the Lord. Like it seemed
yeah,
like he wanted to redeem himself,
yeah,
and Stack was like, "Yo, let's get this money.
hmm
I still want women. We could run this whole city. We could do what we did in Chicago out here. That type
yeah,
of aspect, and that's definitely beautifully pictured with the red and blue. I didn't
yeah.
put that together with that color of those hats, but definitely saw the redemption versus
You
temptation story.
you had an interesting video that I didn't fully get the point, but you said, why does the Asian sister announce to the vampires, y'all come in? And you said that she betrayed them but I also was like, weren't they prepared for the fight at that point?
No, there wasn't.
Mm-mm.
They were getting ready for the potential of a fight. But
Okay.
as long as there was no invite into the juke joint, the vampires would have stayed outside the whole night.
Mm-hmm.
It had Grace never done that, no one would have passed away. The only person who would have got turned into a vampire, unfortunately, would have
So,
been Mary and Stack.
so why does she do it?
In the
Her
context
kid.
of it, because for one, through in history, there were a lot of Chinese immigrants that came to the southern states during those times. They did open up stores. And a lot of times those stores were the only stores that black people in the area could shop at because white folks was like, you ain't coming over here, and this was during a time where if you weren't of British, white, European descent, you were not even considered a real white person. White people discriminated against Italians. They
Right.
discriminated against the Irish, despite
Right.
them being just as pale as them.
Right.
So when the Asians came into the community, there was a slight alliance between black people in the Asian community. But as you can see throughout history, at some point when the power dynamics change, Asians have been deemed as what some people call the quote model minority. And
Right.
it's
Mm-hmm.
because they have aligned themselves with whiteness more
Yeah.
than the
In a
minority aspect
in a non-threatening way. Yes.
in a non-threatening way, but it's still in a self-interest kind of thing.
It's the
And
concept of
and
it.
like when I gave the example of Latasha Harlins in 1992 in
Yeah.
LA,
Yeah. Yeah.
when the Asian store owner falsely accused her of stealing, she knew she could get away with it because she understood the court system's lack of care for black bodies. She
Mm-hmm.
knew that if I as an Asian woman tell these white people this little black girl stole from me, even if it's true and even if it was a lie or not, the white people would side with her. She knew that.
Wait, hold on. Let's. But you had a great video about Remick, which
Mhm.
explains more deeply him. And once again, Coogler has given us a villain whose point makes sense.
Yeah.
Remick wants to reunite his family.
Mhm.
That is not an evil intention. That
No.
makes perfect. Like Killmonger was making perfect sense. We
Yeah.
just T'Challa disagreed, but like he's the quintessential villain who had a point and made sense. And
Yeah.
now Remick is like, well, I can't front on what he wants to do, and
And at the
he's
end of the
saying,
day,
and he's
Killmonger
saying to
actually won.
and he's saying to them, Remick, yes, Killmonger's idea wins out at the end, yes, and
Mhm.
Remick is saying
Does
to
it?
them,
He
yes,
did.
T'Challa comes
Because if
over
you
to
remember,
what? Yes, T'Challa comes over
because
to
if
what
you remember at
Killmonger
the end
wants
of
to do.
Black Panther, when T'Challa and his sister they went to the States and opened up a center in the States, and that center's goal was to connect Wakanda to the rest of the world
Well, when they
because
go to the
he
UN,
understood he understood Killmonger's message, but just removed the malice from it.
yes, when they go, well, this is Shuri's point, but yes, when they go to the UN and they're like, okay, we're gonna let you guys know that we are the shit, and the world is like, what are you talking about? And then,
Yeah.
um, but no, and Remick is saying to them, there's no racism in my tribe. So if you really want freedom from racism, it's over here.
Mhm.
I don't want to be a vampire, but that is not a bad point.
Not really. Again, Remick's history, once again, just like Grace's, there's a lot of historical context behind it. Irish people and black people also had a lot of similar struggles in America with discrimination. Culturally, we do have a lot of relations. Irish folk music is basically Irish blues.
Sure.
Um, and
Mm-hmm.
even they even like tap dance with their music, and that's also seen as a black thing. So it's kind of like, we kind of worked alongside of each other in a lot of ways.
But again, we
And
have Kugler giving us a sympathetic villain.
yeah, it's easy. The thing about this movie is that it's very easy to look at this movie like white people good, black people bad, white vampire trying to suck the culture out of black people. That's a very
Yeah.
surface level way of looking at this
And
movie.
it's not that at all.
In fact, the thing about it is this movie isn't about black people being the good guys or black people being the victims of this of this system. Because you have to remember, Smoke and Stack were not good people.
We're
They stole all of that wine and ironically Irish beer.
but
They
they
stole all of that
but
from
they
and the
stole
Chicago.
Italian
they
stuff too.
stole
They
from the
stole from the
Yeah,
mob.
they
Italians.
stole
But
from
they
the
stole from
Italians and the
thieves.
Irish and
They
started a
stole from
war
thieves.
between them.
That's not a moral crime to steal from thieves.
You know,
Yes, it is. But here's the
No,
whole
it's
the
not.
yes, it
tagline.
is.
That's yes, it is. The tagline of this movie
We're
to
all
further your
sinners,
point is we are all
all
sinners. So they
sinners.
are sinners as well. That's the
Yeah, no
point. But let me
one.
get to the one point that I want to say and see if you agree with this. Is like I've been saying this, and I said that yesterday when we went live. Is that this movie is about this people's cultural identity and their proximity to whiteness, which is a
Yeah.
concept, and white supremacy, and not white people. How a lot of people like to display this, because
Thank you.
there's many people in this movie who present as white, and that shows you what this idea is. Mary is passing, so
Yes.
she has a proximity to whiteness.
Yes.
Your Irish vampire has a proximity to whiteness. The
Yes.
the Klansmen have they're white and have a proximity to whiteness, and it shows the levels of proximity to the concept of whiteness in a white supremacist culture, because you have three different people who look the same: Mary, Klansmen, and Irish, who completely have different roles in this movie, and they all look the same. But why are they not the same? So this is play, and why is there almost every single racial caste system that exists in America in this movie? Every single one's in there. You have the native people, you have Asian, you have black, you have white, you have
The white
passings,
passing. Yeah,
you have the white
that's what I wanted to bring out as well. Is this movie isn't about white people being bad? It's about white supremacy being bad.
being
It's because
exactly.
think about it. Although Remick was not a regular white person, he was able to use his proximity to the white supremacist power structure to gain entrance into the Klansman's house when the natives were chasing him, because he knew, because we look alike, I can get into your home to escape from them because I know you don't like them because they're natives. We look like each other. But as long as I don't tell you that I'm Irish, we'll be good, because on the surface, I just look like a regular white man. Therefore, I gain interest into your home, and now I recruit you two, and now y'all are vampires. When if you listened to the Choctaw when they came to your house and told you, ma'am, there's someone in your house that's very dangerous.
Right.
She instead treated them like they were the
They
danger,
are dangerous.
Right.
not
Yeah.
realizing that he's trying to help you,
Right.
because
Right.
that
Right.
proximity to the white supremacist structure
There's-
meant more to her than her own safety.
Those Indians are a
Mhm.
lot of people's favorite character or favorite secondary character.
Yeah, the natives were great because there's a whole story that can be told from them. Because look at Remick's state when he pulled up to that lady's house. He was
Yeah.
burned, he was beat down. There was a fight that went down between him and the
They
Choctaw Native
vampire
Americans.
hunters. The
Yeah, they're
Choctaw
vampire
vampire
hunters.
hunters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there was a whole showdown between them that happened before he showed up.
I want to see that movie.
They're beating him up, and I mean, like, I think a lot of people loved that they were like, we told you we're leaving, and not like
Yeah.
we're fighting to help you or fighting for what we think is right. We're like, we gave you the information. Like, it's getting dark. We're not we out. Fuck you.
Yeah. I tried to tell you, if you don't listen, that's on you.
I think that I love that we have a movie that's set in the juke joint, which is this massive mythological thing in Black culture that, I mean, like, was a real thing that, you see in Romare Bearden's paintings, and obviously Ernie Barnes's painting, and Toni Morrison novels, and August Wilson plays, and it's in The Color Purple, and that notion of like the Black third place that is secluded in the woods where real authentic Black culture is happening, and like so much art is based around like that thing.
It's
I think
freedom.
the juke joint is such
Yes.
a mythical thing in the Black community, because if you really pay attention to it, the juke joint is the one thing that we don't have anymore. Like, yeah, we have our clubs, but the
Private
culture
space.
behind those clubs is very different.
Mm-hmm.
The juke joint was a place of fellowship and escape.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
it was a place to release. And although you could say the same thing about the club, but unfortunately, the club now is more so like a, I'm coming to stunt and be better than all of you here. I
Mm.
want the section. I want the bottles and the sparklers. I want all the attention on me. I'm the freshest nigga in here. I got the most money. I got the baddest bitches. I got the most bottles. Back then, it was we all ain't got shit, but fuck it, we finna turn up together. And that is the one
Mm.
aspect of black culture that we don't have anymore. We don't have that place of escape where we're all just trying to fellowship together without stunting on each other. And that's why the
Mm.
juke joint is so mythical because it's like, wow, like that existed. You know what I'm saying?
And the reason
Like that.
why I love that statement in the movie, I feel like they say that with, you remember when he has a
The
person
wooden
come in, a
nickels.
patron, the wooden nickels,
Mm-hmm.
exactly, the wooden
And stack
nickels.
and stack told Smoke, man, these people been in the field all day.
Yup.
Let them have that.
Mm-hmm.
Let them have that. So it's funny because while Smoke seemed like the more morally intact brother, that moment showed that Stack was also just as morally intact as Smoke because Smoke was like, profit. I don't care what they've
Yeah.
been through. I don't care what they've done today. I want profit. You know what I'm
Yup.
saying? Remember, Smoke is the only one in the movie, besides the vampires, who harmed another black man. Smoke shot
Right.
Buddy in the ass, and
That's
he
two
shot
people.
Buddy in the kneecap.
And he shot two people.
He shot two
Yeah.
people. So while Smoke may seem like the hero or the more morally intact brother, he's the only
They
one
all
who caused
sinners.
harm to another black man in the movie.
Right. He's
He's the
right.
only one who showed no remorse for the fact that they've been in the fields all day long. Stack was
Yeah.
like, these people been working and slaving. Give them some community. Let him drink. He didn't even want the fancy beer. He wanted corn liquor.
This is not the Robert Johnson story, right? Sammy does not get his powers from the devil. That's the core of the Robert Johnson story. But I feel like Robert Johnson's shadow hangs over this because we're in
Mhm.
the Delta, in the Jukes with a prodigy blues guitarist, right? Who's like way better than anyone can imagine. So
Mhm.
it's playing, he takes parts of the Robert Johnson thing, but maybe it's Son House as well. He could have gone all the way to the Robert Johnson story, and that could
He
have
could
been
have.
very interesting, but he kind of gets there and then he makes a turn.
It's
Yeah,
the
it's it.
thematic basis of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of Robert Johnson esque influence in the story.
Yeah.
I actually broke that down too. I think in my part one of my Sinners breakdown.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of Robert Johnson esque moments with Sammy's character. Um, but of course, it didn't go all the way because in the Robert Johnson story, before he met the devil at the crossroad, he really wasn't that good at what he musically. He became
Supposedly.
great after the crossroad versus Sammy, who was already great starting out. So that's there was a big difference there, but the backgrounds very similar, uh, musical style similar, you know.
I was reading about this today. Alan Lomax, who is the blues historian, who is the reason why we know a lot about the blues, he's like, we are misunderstanding what they in that time meant by selling your soul to the devil. And he says what they were really talking about is what we would say selling out. They're making secular music. That's what they were
Yeah,
meaning by that phrase.
yeah. I don't think it was meant to be taken literal. I think it just added a little mythos to it, you know.
Yeah. But
That's
but Robert Johnson's not the first one to say that he got his talent from the devil. So you wonder, like I don't know if he's thinking about what we would call marketing in 1932 because there isn't really much of a record business. The guy's traveling around to juke joints. He probably never had any money, but it
yeah.
does seem like a marketing thing to be like, yeah, I got my power from the devil. Like everybody would think like, oh, that's
But
so
people put
cool.
that on him first. that because he was playing somewhere before, like, and didn't wasn't
Yeah.
that good at the guitar, came back and he was very good, and people put it onto him. It's like he must have sold his soul to a devil, and then this narrative came on, and then I think he kind of went with the narrative. This narrative that came on that he met a devil at the crossroads and got his skill set, and that narrative even went into pop music and pop culture moving
Yeah.
forward. So I feel like yes, it's a marketing thing that organically happened, but him getting so good real quickly, someone needed an explanation for that. It's almost like
Yeah.
how people go around saying that, oh, you in the Illuminati, that's how you got hot, that's how you got
Yeah,
popping.
Yeah.
You know
right.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
No,
It's
100%.
like,
100%. It takes the talent, it takes the explanation for the talent away from the black person, right? Which, of
yeah.
course, like he can't be the genius. Somebody had to have given him this, or he's naturally gifted. Like, really? I couldn't have like gone off and woodshedded for 6 months and gotten really good.
Right.
The whole idea that blues music is like the devil's music is a concept that exists, and that shit's problematic in the first place. That shit's crazy
Right.
when you think about it.
Yeah,
Well,
because the
but
blues.
that comes from it's a rejection of gospel, right? Or it's the opposite of gospel, right? And they had all been doing gospel, so then to do secular was frightening at that point.
Mhm. And the thing is, the blues is essentially the blues started off essentially for the same exact reason that hip hop started off. It was a
Mm-hmm.
way to express the struggle. It was a way to express
Yeah,
the current state of what we're going through.
yeah,
Hip
Mm-hmm.
hop is the blues at
yeah,
Yeah.
first,
yes, of
not no
course,
more, but at its
yes,
core, uh,
for sure,
that's what the blues is. Like my favorite Tupac song, "So Many Tears," that's a blues song. If
for
you
sure.
So many
That's a blues
tears.
song. Like if you
Yeah.
look at what the blues is by definition, subject matter, it's about your woes, it's about your pain, it's about your tears, and then you have a song called "So Many Tears." That's a blues song. You know what I'm saying? So
It is the underpinning of all American music, right? So we could do that with rock, soul, funk, right? Like every piece, for sure. Hip hop. I did not entirely understand or appreciate the end, and this is not a Marvel movie. That just because the credits start rolling, it's not like, oh, postscript. No, that's part of the fucking movie.
I think you
You,
need
what is happening? Why are we jumping to 1993? He made a film that is encompassed within one day in 1932, right? And I'm like, this is great. This is beautiful. I love this ending. And then somehow we're in 1993. I don't know why. What happened?
What are your thoughts? Because I battled him with this yesterday.
okay, first I want to know what you said.
It's the realization of the freedom that the movie was talking about. I think you don't realize it without you seeing Stack doing that, and how he sees that freedom in through his temptation, whereas Smoke saw his freedom through redemption, and they both realized it. One realized it through redemption. He redeemed himself by going back to his family. They went to a heavenly place, all that. The other one redeemed it through temptation. And I think that you think that this movie is about the thing that when I say you, I'm talking about one who's watching the movie would think that this movie is about, oh yeah, the white people are the vampires, and then these guys shot them and killed them. If you
Yeah.
don't get that realization, whereas it is about the proximity of whiteness and white supremacy, and I think you understand it from that. Now, is it executed marvelously and acted marvelously in the end? No, I hated that wig on that man's head too. What was going on with your flat top? That flat top was crazy. But I enjoyed one seeing Buddy Guy, and two, I enjoyed the him performing it, as well as the realization of, oh, okay, yeah, these vampires are he lost his soul, but it's still him, in the sense of like, he told you that he didn't come and kill you. It wasn't some like, I'm working for Remick and this is all it is. Like there was a remnants of who he was as a person in that vampire, and you wouldn't notice that or know that without the ending. That's why I think it's important. Now you.
So me personally, I actually kind of here's how I feel. I feel like the movie would have been fine without it, and I feel like it would have, and I feel like it's still fine with it. I feel like it did kind of bring things full circle. It kind of expanded on something that Annie said when Annie said that you got to kill all of them. Even if the vampire that made them a vampire is gone, if they're not, if you don't take them out, they're still going to be there. And I also
Hmm.
think it kind of once again brings everything full circle as far as what Sammy wanted. Sammy wanted to be a blues singer, and he was able to. If you notice, after that night was over with, when he went to the church, his dad kept telling him put the guitar down, and he never did. He
Right.
refused. He held on to that guitar for dear life because that was his lifeline. That was the thing that kept him intact. It kept Sammy as himself. And
It was also his temptation and his
Hold on.
ambition, right?
and
But
also at the end of the day,
full
y'all have to realize too,
full
it's easy to
circle,
look at it's
full
easy to
circle
look
is
at
full circle is not
Mary.
achieved by this ending that we're talking about.
And
Full
it's
circle is literally we saw the end scene with Saul Williams and the dad. We explained how we got there, and then he ends in the scene that we saw at the beginning. That
Mhm.
brings us to this is the end of the day. That is a circle. What we get afterwards is a line extruding out of the circle. The circle does not include 1993. There's like this is shape it's like a whole like we made a circle and then there's a line to 1993. But like it's literally not a full circle because we achieved a full circle and then he kept going.
it's also easy to look at Stack and Mary's relationship as just lustful and just temptation. I think a lot of people saw that and thought that simply because it was a black man and a white woman. They've a lot of people figured ain't no real love there. That's just sexual temptation. I've been seeing those takes all over Twitter, all over Facebook, that Smoke and Annie had real love and Stack and Mary had lust. That's not the case at all, bro. They loved each other. They
Okay.
genuinely loved each other. And I think, and at the end of the day, that's what they wanted. They wanted to be together forever. And Smoke wanted to be with his dead kid and Annie. At the end of the day, all three main men of the story, Sammy, Smoke, and Stack, all of them got what they wanted. Sammy became a famous blues musician. He became a legend in his genre. Smoke reunited with his dead child and his girl. And Mary and Stack, finally, this is crazy, when they were
Hmm.
alive and not bonded by blood vampires, their union was dangerous. It was not safe. It was borderline illegal, and they couldn't be together in peace. The
That was
only
illegal.
time that Mary and Stack have ever been able to live together in peace is when they were vampires. This
Hmm.
is the first piece of peace that they've ever experienced together as a couple. So I think it was very important to see that because that ending showed everybody got what they wanted. Smoke got back with his family in heaven. Stack and Mary got back together through the bonds of being vampires, going
And
back to
Sammy.
the red and the blue colors. Sammy became a blues musician, and he still had that same guitar from that night.